Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Making Light Two Humans Being. I'm Julie Heert. With me, as always, is Kate Foggo. And what we were talking about, so we've spent actually a lot of time before we actually hit the record button to talk about stuff. And so we're going to frame it up for y'all here real quickly. I don't know. We'll see. So I was just working with, we have a colleague whose name is Anna Marie Ellison. We will put her information in the show notes. If you can get to Chaminade, Illinois, I highly recommend you attend one of her retreats with her horses. She runs a company called Healed by a Horse. And it is one of the most amazing, most powerful experiences I personally have ever had. And I cannot talk about it enough. We will not talk about it completely here. And we'll get back to it too, because I'm sure it's going to thread its way out. Oh, and we're going to have her at some point on the show. We just have to figure out that when. But one thing that I learned, and as Kate and I were talking about something outside of this, and the guides were actually having me use the work that Anna Marie did with me and the horses, was to feel how emotions feel in our body and where they feel, which is really kind of interesting because I've heard Danielle talk to us about that, Kate, like when we first started training with her. I remember her saying, how does it feel in your body? And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I feel good. Yeah, I got scoliosis, so some of my back, like I didn't, but now I feel like I understand it a little bit better. So when we started working with the horses, Anna Marie had us do this whole meditation and work through every aspect of our body and really feel how our body was physically feeling. But then when we noticed something physically in our body, then to kind of sit with it and see if an emotion came up to it or a color or any other things associated with it. We could use all the senses. And it was really kind of interesting to see what came up. And the more we did it, what she said was then the more authentically we are with who we are. And then we're more authentic with the horses and you actually become a member of the herd. And when we did the exercise, the horses were all moving around in the pasture. And then we did the exercise and then when our backs were to them, when we did the exercise, when we turned around, they all had their butts to us, but they were all facing the same way and they were all very quiet. It was fascinating. And then that practice we had to refer to again and again and again as we continued on with the work with the horses. So we were talking earlier about what to do when one's feeling lower vibrationally or one's not feeling quite happy. I don't know what the word is, or one's feeling right, I guess, is like, does lower make sense, Kate?
Shit will do.
When one's feeling like shit, what does one do? And so Kate was having, can I say this? Kate was having a moment of feeling like shit. So that's, look at Sally's here now. See, yay, Sally. And so we kind of walked through the exercise a little bit, but what the guides were having me do was having Kate find something right in front of her, right here, right now, that made her happy or brought her joy.
Now I've got something I can talk about.
Yes. Yes. Now you've got Sally, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's much better than my green jumper.
You don't have to compare and contrast. Everything can be, right?
Julie's telling me to find something I liked about myself in this world. It's not even a jumper. I think it's a shawl actually, because it doesn't. It's sort of open.
Oh.
And I've had this for, what did I say, 10, 15 years, and I've never worn it.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it. But I love this little fella more.
So, but we're going to talk about the jumper.
Okay.
So there was something about the jumper that brought you joy.
It's probably, and I know that's not a reason for it to bring me joy, but it's actually probably at the time the most expensive thing I had that I actually paid for, because it is a designer. It was, well, designer as in it, I bought it at, I thought it was a Highland show. It might have been some craft fair, but it was, and I've never had things like that. I can never buy things like that. I love the color. I loved the style. It made me feel a little bit trendy as a 50+ woman walking around the house in my slippers. It did make me feel a little bit trendy, and I thought, I'm going to put that on for Julie. I thought, I put it on last night because I was cold, but
yeah. So as Kate was talking about the jumper and all the things, then we had, the guides had her feel how that jumper made her feel in her body. So we're going to come back to Sally in a minute too, because Sally wants to be an example too. Just FYI. So, but Kate was talking about how the jumper actually made her feel. And is it okay if I out you a little bit? Because you were kind of struggling with that, because you'd start to go there and then your mind take you up.
Like, it's not happiness. You said, where do you feel like happiness? And I'm like, well, it's not happiness. You told me to find something that I could tolerate, and that, yeah, there's a huge defensiveness. But also I feel like the word happiness is too strong, and although I know what you mean, my brain doesn't want to go there. But yeah, I think we all do, I don't know, I get very defensive. I think it's worse for those of us on a spiritual path, because when we do feel shit, there's that additional enormous stick that we have to beat ourselves with, because we shouldn't be feeling like this, and that's what I'm feeling. So I get very defensive. So as Julie and her guides poke at me, I'm like, I'm fucking doing everything I can. All right, I'm doing everything I can. I'm trying as hard as I can. I don't know what else I can do. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. So there was even the opportunity to sit with, where is that coming? Where's the defensiveness coming from? And even feeling how that felt in your body. And then, yeah.
And that just makes me want to cry.
Yeah. And I will say the point of this is not to make you cry.
Although that will happen.
Crying is a release. Crying is an acknowledgement of pain, right? Or hurt or something. So it's also, it's a release. It's not bad to cry.
You know, that's interesting, because the emotion code, let me just find it, actually recognizes crying as an emotion. Let me just look it up. So I'm looking down, because emotion code, I'm crying. I'll see how it defines. The often involuntary act of expressing a strong emotion, a response to pain or suffering, emotional or physical. It's going to make me cry. A response to or expression of helplessness, physical sensation felt in the throat, chest, and or duct. See how he gets upset. Often becomes trapped when one does not allow himself or herself to cry, i.e. suppressing this reaction or stuffing it down.
Which, as we were talking through how the sweater made you feel, which was really hard to actually describe how the sweater made you feel in your body, like where does it sit? Because that's part of the exercise, was where you experience a feeling, where exactly does it sit in your body? How does it feel in your body? Describe it. And you can describe it, and Marie had us describe it even in colors or other sensations. And that was really hard, because you would put your toenail in, I'll even say, like, and then you'd be like, and then you'd go off and like rationalize it or let the brain go.
It took, when I first had sessions with Annie, and I'll put her stuff in notes, so it was my first mentor, and she taught me so much. And she used to do this: A, embarrassed, right? B, the desire to get it right, as if there is a right answer, as if anybody else knows what's going on in your body. I mean, I soon realized it didn't matter what I said, but I still have this feeling of integrity. I know that I have to say something, so I could just make it up to get her to move on, because this sort of stuff makes me really uncomfortable. But I have too much integrity to do that. So then there's all that pressure. So that in itself brings up all these emotions about really actually the exercise is just about you acknowledging what's going on in your body. It doesn't matter where it is or what color it is or how you see it. Like Anne-Marie's not going to say, well, actually, Julie, I think it's a little bit to the left and it looks more blue than green to me. You know, it's literally just, but you do go through all those emotions about what do you mean? You know, first of all, I get quite anxious when people ask me questions like that because I feel stupid as well talking about it. We all feel a bit self-conscious.
Which is a sign, right? There's a sign that there's something deeper there, but our brain wants to protect us from going there, or our ego, right? So that's also a flag. Yeah. So yeah, so we were talking a lot about how everything made you feel. So as a thought, then, and not for necessarily for Kate, but for everybody watching. So when you're feeling down, feeling shit, and I'm not saying this is easy, and I'm not saying this is easy by any means. Something to think about for everybody is, where exactly does it sit in your body and how exactly does it feel? And can you automatic write about it? Just write might help. Or just sitting with it, meditating. The thing though, too, like we were trying to do was have you breathe into that area where it was sitting. So for you, it was sitting in your solar plexus. So when you started to, and above, right, in your heart too.
Yeah, I get like I think that's a defensiveness of my grief, wasn't it? Here, just like a line across here.
Yeah.
There's lots of mechanisms around it. It actually reminds me, now that we talk about it, I did a course with Claire Zammit, which was the feminine power. And she would do the same sort of thing, but more about asking, like listening to yourself and asking yourself how you feel. And instead of trying to fix it, which is our automatic reaction, especially as the more we learn, we're like, right, okay, I need to wrestle this to the ground and make myself, it's like, ask yourself what you need to address it. So if for example, you ask me, and I think I said grief, and then I'd ask myself, so I hear that you're feeling grief, like talking back to myself. I hear that you're feeling grief. And then also, I feel like you need comfort. Just making it all like one-sided, but not fixing it. Just, I suppose that's a bit of the echoing back, isn't it? I don't know what they call that. Constructive listening or active listening, whatever. Reflecting it back, but instead of this desire to, if somebody's feeling grief, instead of trying to fix it, it just, even just asking, do you feel, do you want comfort? Things like that. And it's all just much of the same thing of becoming aware of what's going on in your body.
Yeah, because when you started to breathe into the solar plexus in here, then you could feel some deeper emotions that you had an opportunity to share. Even if you're doing it by yourself, sharing it out loud may help too. And Matt Kahn would say, I see you fear, I see you grief, and I respect your power. I would also even add to it, and I send you love.
That's nice.
Yeah. There's no reason why you can't love these things, right?
I can't believe that after all this conversation we've had, we've actually gone full circle around to something that's come up several times in the last few days for me, and it is exactly that. I work with Louise. We reciprocate healing. I've got her details down there as well. And she's like, your logical brain. She gives me such really good phrases, and I thought I'd written it down. Like, when I'm feeling this and all this anger I feel about, why am I going through this again? This should not be happening. I should not be feeling this. Look at all this stuff I've done, and look how far I've got. And why am I going through this again? Oh my God, basically, I'm not good enough. And she's going like, your emotions are not logical. Like, you can't say, I should not be feeling this. You have to acknowledge that if you feel something, you feel something. It doesn't matter what your brain says, your body feels it. You cannot logic it away. She has another phrase which I forget, but it's exactly about that. It's like your body does not heal at the same timeline as your intellect. You may intellectually understand, as I do, far too much, which is why I started working with her in the first place, because she's like, you've got it all up here, Kate, but it's not, you haven't got it in your body. My body is still going, wow, what the fuck? My brain's going, shut up, should be done by now, we've had our cry, get on with it. And that's just more abuse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is interesting because we talked about Gabor Mate a week or two ago and his new book. And I know you and I think, want to read it and even have book club read it too.
Ooh,
but
get through the field.
I say what?
Better get through the field then.
That's why I want to finish The Field. We're currently reading The Field by Lynn McTaggart. I want to finish it because I want to move on to, I don't want to dwell on it. Like, we got others, there's so much other stuff to read. But Gabor Mate talks a lot about emotions and in the body. And he, in this one interview that I listened to, Elise Lonen's Pulling the Thread, he talked about a woman that was diagnosed with really late stage cancer. And she wasn't given a lot of time to live. And but she got in touch with her anger about it, and she expressed her anger. I think she actually told her doctor to go fuck themselves. She wasn't having any of it, like, fuck you, this isn't happening to me, and really got in touch with it. And he was working with her, or worked with her shortly thereafter, and he goes, that anger saved your life, because she ended up living decades after the diagnosis. But because she was able to express that anger instead of keeping it in us, which you've talked too about, Abraham Hicks, and dis-ease is what disease is. So this notion of really getting in touch with our emotions. So when we're feeling blue, because I'll go through spouts of depression and I'll feel like, oh, I just don't want to do anything today. Then don't. To honor that, to not and feel what's going on. And I'm not saying, I'm learning how to do this too. So this is why, as two humans being, we are sharing our human experience. We do not know all the answers.
Or even if we have the answers, we can't necessarily execute them.
No. Right.
But this is it, sort of feeling stupid, which a lot of people do. There's a feeling stupid, there's a feeling of taking up time, and especially if it's more than one person. Like Julie and I know each other well enough to do it, but like you said, that with the horse thing, if there's anyone else involved, you're like, I can't be the center of attention here, there's all of that. But actually, the absolutely fundamental truth of all disease is at the root of it some emotion. So this is not trivial. So get over yourself and look for that stuff. And I remember we went to see, when we were looking for houses, and one of the houses we went to, and it wasn't old. He was over middle age, a little old, like 60s, 70s, but not like ancient. And he'd lost his wife to cancer. He was an Irish man living in his, anyway, it's not about the house. I quite liked it. But and he said I think he said he had become ill, and he said, people don't tell you that a broken heart can kill you. And because he was brokenhearted over his wife, that he had made himself ill, and he had obviously got to this stage in his life where it had made sense to him what was happening, and was making, and I think that's partly why he was making steps in his life to address it. But he's like, he was almost angry and resigned to think that his wife had died unnecessarily, that if somebody had maybe shared this secret with them 100 years ago, that sadness makes you ill. And most people who have cancer, or not most people, but a lot of people who have cancer do, or any sort of long-term, especially all these diseases that nobody really understands where they come from. They come from people who are suffering emotionally for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's serious shit.
Yeah. Our systems aren't in place to honor, they call it mental health. And yes, absolutely. We're not at a place where we're getting better, but to actually recognize that emotions have ramifications, and we need to, and that's why we're actually here. That's the silly part, is that as the divine having a human experience, we are here to experience being human, which means emotions. And when we have emotions, what do those mean? How do those feel? How does it manifest? How do we honor them? We're taught, no, go make money. And you have to do certain things by certain times, which then creates all this emotion. I was watching Goop on Netflix last night. There's a sex one. I forget, I don't remember the name of it. I'll find it now, but it's all about human connectedness in a relationship. It starts with sex, but then they back it up really to talk about connection and how do we, and dynamics in a relationship. It's the whole thing is just, and there's different therapists that they use and their techniques, and it's amazing. And why was I saying this? Why was I saying this? Oh, emotions. Oh, and that we build these stories that, oh, and how, you're supposed to do. So the one thing last night too was sex, in that this is how sex is supposed to be. And this one therapist was like, in porn, the women breathe a certain way. She's like, that's not really how the body breathes when it's having sex or it's experiencing pleasure. And so we actually trap what we're experiencing just because we've seen somebody else do it, which isn't realistic, which was the whole thing is fascinating to me. What we do to ourselves when we're just here to be, and they even said this a million times last night, Kate, they said this, all therapists said this a million times, we are designed to experience pleasure and happiness and joy, and that is it.
Yeah, and if you go back to Abraham Hicks, that say that our emotions are our guidance system, and when something doesn't feel good, it's a sign to turn around and go the other way, go to the joy, go to the fun. And that's literally as simple as our emotions are supposed to be. And yet we wheedle into the sadness and the overwhelm and that, and we beat ourselves to push harder. And yet the whole point of the emotion is to go, danger, danger, get out of here,
go take a nap, take a nap. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, anything else you want to share on any of this, Kate? This might be a shorter episode of Making Light, but that's okay.
I don't know, I feel better.
Perfect.
It is hard, and I should probably go. When you feel like that, that's actually the best advice you can get, is to go and have a nap. Because the harder you try to make yourself feel better, and it depends who you talk to. I mean, I'm fortunate that I have you, but if I'd gone to Gary and said, oh, I'm feeling really shit, he's probably going to say all the right things, but actually it's just going to make me go down, because then I end up explaining why I feel this way, and then I'm putting weight behind all my probably ridiculous fears, but as soon as you vocalize them, and I'm not saying that it's not important to talk to people when you're really down, but if you can stop yourself getting there, for me, this has been happening over a few days, and then today it's just like, it's just been a lot of stuff. And I realize that I'm telling Julie, it's been a lot of stuff with the animals around and the sheep, and it's absolutely none of my business, but I have manifested this entire thing that the sheep were actually saying, and the sheep, I actually did a visualization with the sheep and Louise, and because there was something in the field, the fence, they were getting caught in the fence, and I was getting angry because why isn't the farmer moving the fence? Why, it was a genuine concern on the part of the animals, although of course they all survived. But then I get frustrated, then that leads to, you shouldn't be taking care of them, you're not taking care of them properly, and then that leads to anger, why these sheep are there in the first place, and then the whole world's an asshole because everybody's making money out of sheep, and and ridiculous. And all this fear I had, when we visualized it, the sheep were very gently and very kindly pushing back all my concern and saying, we don't need this. This is about you. We don't need your concern, in the nicest possible way. It wasn't like, fuck off, it's none of your business, Kate. It was in the nicest possible way. The sheep are saying, this is all you, Kate. Everything that you see going on in here it's because you feel vulnerable, because you feel unsafe, because you don't think it, because you feel neglected and uncared for, and all of those. I just wanted to add that in actually, because the animals are always there for us and that. So this is obviously something I have to go through. I shall greet it with appreciation.
I might
That I'm
suggest love.
being shown yet more opportunities to learn and grow.
Yeah. And I don't know if you heard me, but I would also suggest love.
Yes, love. Yeah, and as I say, this has come up a few times in the last couple of days, is about loving myself. And it's just so easy to just chuck that out and get annoyed. God, I should be over this by now.
Right.
And yet my body's saying, no, you're not, Kate.
Yeah.
You're not over it.
No. And that's okay. And that's okay. Because it's a huge opportunity. Like we were talking about, you even just writing about it, even sharing it, however much you want to share it. You know, there's lots of opportunity for all of it. And Sally's reminding me to come back to her.
She's snoring. I don't know if you can hear her.
No, she went back. No, she wanted me to share that when she came up to you, like that was her like going, see, you did good. She wanted to give you a little hug, high five is what I hear her say.
She's so sweet, so sweet. I just wanted to share something for anybody. I was going to do a video about it. I probably will actually. I've forgotten about it. It's good that she reminded me. So Julie and I are both teaching assistants for Danielle MacKinnon School, and I'm teaching assistants. First time I've done it, Julie's done loads of it, is the so it's the absolute beginners. And as you said, it is really nice to see people learning how to do it, and they're doing energy management, which is basically just learning to control your energy and that. And there's a lot of them that have been posting about how their animals react when they're doing energy management. Like their animals want to be close when they're really calm. And there's one of them that was, I forgot if she was cutting claws or something like that, and their cat got really calm or something like that. And I was thinking, God, you know, I know all this stuff. Why don't I do it? And I had to worm Sally. I used to be able to give Sally her worm tablets and her food. She was absolutely fine. Suddenly she's wise to it, and she will not, for love nor money, take a worming tablet. So I got the old pill popper thing out, and I get myself all worked up about it because it's ridiculous. I'm 54 and I can't give a cat a pill, but I just get really stressed about it. She hates to be handled. She's such a cuddly cat, but the minute you go to her with intention, she's like a bar of soap. Just can't get near her. I gave her, so I'm thinking about what the students have been saying. I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. So I gave myself Reiki, I gave her Reiki, and honestly, we were both half asleep. I just went pop, 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 done. Amazing, right? I just don't. And then I'm starting going, and she's going, see? Because I'd said to her, what do you want me to do? Will Reiki help? She did try cheese, but I couldn't risk the last tablet in cheese for it not to work. Yeah. And I don't know that you should give cats cheese. But yeah, so it's all about how you feel.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know where that came from.
No, but it is. It's all, and the animals will help you, is why. The animals will help you identify how you feel or alert you that you are feeling but ignoring it. Like Lucas does that to me all the time. If I'm ignoring how I feel, like when I get overwhelmed in particular or anxious about a lot of things, he'll come and nudge my arm like, nope, we gotta go outside. We need to go outside. We need to go outside. And
if you get irritated, then you know it's time.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I'll be like, get off. She sits on my keyboard and I'll be like, get off, I'm busy. And she's like,
exactly. You need to step away. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. The next time you get irritated that your cat's sitting in your keyboard, she's probably telling you to take a break.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so I kind of watch for that too, because that's what I was, I did a little video on this yesterday, what the animals were starting to tell me leading up to the horse thing was be in your body and experience those emotions in your body. And then the horses, that's how you start working with them. So I thought that was super interesting too. That's when I sat down to look at all the threads and the themes. I'm like, oh, hey, look at this. It was all lining up before I went. So yeah. So we will have Anna Marie on here.
Yeah. Multi-talented Anna Marie.
Yeah. But Kate, you have a special title this month, right? Why don't you tell everybody about your special title this month?
I am featured practitioner for Danielle MacKinnon.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I learned from the best, Julie. Julie was in June.
Yeah. Cool.
She encouraged me to pull my finger out, and
Mhm.
because there was a million reasons why I thought it wouldn't be convenient. But I did it anyway, and here we are.
Here we
So
are.
thank you.
Yeah. So do you have a special offer this month too?
I do. I have with the Danielle. Yeah, it's just Danielle coupon. You can get 20% off any individual session, and with the Danielle Dash package, you can get 10% off packages as well.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
See, not good at promotion.
You did great, Kate. You did fantastic. What are you talking about?
Yay!
Really nice. So yeah, everyone, just FYI, Kate is featured practitioner for Danielle. So if you're interested in learning more about all the amazing things that she offers, go check her out. The information's below in the show notes. So anything else you want to add, Kate?
No, other than thank you, Julie.
You're absolutely welcome.
Thank you very much, everybody. Special thanks, of course, to Julie, who has helped dig me out of a hole yet again. So we are Making Light, Two Humans Being, Julie Hurt and Kate Foggo. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and right here on YouTube. You can subscribe to us to get notified for new episodes. We try to do them once a week. You can also follow us on Facebook to get notified as well, and Instagram to get notified of the new episodes as they come up. If you have any comments, please put them below. If you have anything in particular you would like us to talk about, we would really like for you to put it in the comments. So thanks for being here.